Don't think that it hasn't occurred to me to put this in the thumbnail, but considering the topic, that would feel a little hypocritical or at least ironic.
This is a problem. Not the comment itself, obviously, but the sentiment expressed here and in many other comments shows that people are surprised whenever they see honesty and authenticity. Perceived honesty, shall we say. Because these things are so rare on the internet, on social media, for a number of reasons. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And meanwhile, I figured I'd pop this into my Sega Saturn Battle Arena Toshinden remix. This is not a gameplay video, obviously, but just so you have something a little more interesting to watch than just my face, which I know is perfectly interesting already. I'm not using a capture card, even though that would yield better quality, but I'm recording the screen with the camera for a more authentic experience. Don't expect much. I haven't played this game in probably closer to 25 years, but that's not the point anyway. So, as said, there are layers to this. On the one hand, you have people's desire to present themselves in a favorable way. Everybody wears masks, even in the real world. Masks that change according to the social context and environment. So, of course, everyone is, well, not everyone, there's always exceptions, but usually people are mindful of the way they present themselves, and they want to show the best possible version of themselves, whether or not it's real, right? And then other people also fill in the blanks to an extent, because unless you're very close to someone, you will never know the whole picture. You won't truly know the person, the totality, so if you will, right? So that in and of itself is normal, unfortunately. It happens in real life too, but it's so much worse on social media, where not only do people do that exact same thing, but on top of that, they also fake the impression. They Photoshop themselves, or they cherry pick the best possible pictures and videos and this and that and the other, right? So that adds another layer of fakeness on top of it. And sometimes the illusion is shattered when something emerges, like when people find out, oh, this person is actually not what they were pretending to be. This is how you get from the Mr. Rogers of the internet to suddenly finding out, oh, this is one of the most pathological liars on the entire internet, right? And this behavior, of course, also is incentivized. It is in real life too, again, because, people want to advance in life. They want a raise or a better position or a certain partner or whatever it may be, right? But then when there's also views and, internet fame and money, of course, involved, then it gets even worse. So then people will really lean into building a facade.
Go home before you
And
get hurt, boy.
Sorry, I got distracted a little bit for a moment. Where was I? So then on top of that, you have also attempts to game the algorithm. Things like clickbait, for example, which has become so ubiquitous, right? I've been doing this YouTube thing for a very long time. Really since 2008. And there have been, fairly early on, there have been attempts to game it, clickbait and all that. Attempts to draw people in, and sometimes in nefarious ways where, what they are baiting people with isn't even in the video.
Don't think that it hasn't occurred to me to put this in the thumbnail, but considering the topic, that would feel a little hypocritical or at least ironic, even though it wouldn't arguably be clickbait because, well, it's in the video. But you catch my meaning.
And now we've gone way past that. Now it's just it's not even just stuff that's not in the video. It's completely fake, like AI generated stuff. I'll get back to that in a moment. It's become so standard that you're losing now by not doing it. Before, the case was that you gain an edge by using these sketchy tactics, right? Using clickbait. You might get an advantage over someone who doesn't. Now it's pretty much the default, and then if you don't do it, you are at an exceptional disadvantage, basically. And then we've got sponsorships, shilling for sponsor money. That's another big source of fakeness. So there's so many cases you cannot rely at all on what someone says because you have a strong suspicion that they are just saying that because they're paid to.
And I know that firsthand because I've had sponsorship offers that I turned down because they wanted to dictate what I say. They had very specific talking points and they wanted me to fake enthusiasm that wasn't there. So I told them to get bent. Well, a little more polite than that.
And this has also become so normalized, right? Like everybody does sponsorships and not like carefully selected or anything. It's just like whatever offer they get, whatever pays well, that's what we're going with, pretty much. I totally understand that a lot of people, in order to do this, need sponsorship money. But it just bothers me how things that used to be seen as exceptional money grab or just kind of sketchy or whatever, that's just the default now. So that's why people point it out when they get the impression that someone is actually being genuine and honest. Not that they can really know, because again, there's plenty of cases where someone appears to be honest, and that's kind of part of the mask, the facade, whatever. And then behind the scenes, it's very different. But whenever people see authenticity, whatever it means to them, it seems special, right? When it really shouldn't be. I mean, that's what the U in YouTube used to stand for, right? But now you've got AI slop everywhere. Like people don't even bother making low effort content anymore. It's just, they don't even make anything. They just let it auto-generate and that's it. So I keep getting really annoyed by all of that. If you don't like, old man rants about AI, whatever, you can skip this part. But it is so bad now. It's just everywhere. And it is extremely annoying because a lot of these thumbnails are just the worst kind of clickbait you can imagine. For example, look at this. This is about retro games. Retro games that should be the original, authentic stuff, right? No, just fake that shit. Just generate some slop that has very little to do with it. It makes everything look the same. Like every game, which used to have its unique style, now the AI just all amalgamates it into this bland, generic slop that comes in basically one of three flavors. One is kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of very generic, realistic, kind of photorealistic style. Then there is, ripped off Miyazaki style. And I forgot the third one. I had something in mind, but I can't remember on top of my head. I'm just so tired of it, Every time I see that, I'm just like, nope, hide channel. I don't want to see this shit. Sometimes, very often, it's not obvious. For example, I like retro stuff, obviously, and I like synthwave. Again, retro. And so there are synthwave remixes or covers or whatever of popular songs or like TV series themes or video game themes or whatever, stuff like that, right? And I've always liked remixes. I was really big into video game remixes in like the early, well, like 2008 to whatever, 12, something like that. And so I liked this kind of stuff. But then when I found this, at first I was like, oh, cool, someone made a cover of this in synthwave style. But then I realized, no, hang on. Nobody made this. This is AI slop. And I think this is all part of the same issue. What people refer to as the enshittification of the internet and everything. Now, there's like more bots than real people on the internet. Now, real artists are being crowded out by stuff that, well, rips off their work. So, the machines make their own work compete with them, but on a much, much larger scale with sheer quantity that real artists cannot compete with, right?
The most ironic case is I saw a guy complain that he can't sell his AI music on Spotify because it doesn't get discovered among all the other AI slop. You can't make this up.
Everything is less honest. I mean, sure, we've had a lot of dishonesty in all kinds of things like advertisement, obviously, and politics. But I feel like even that has been turbocharged. Let's take war, for example. Even that. There's very, very little positive that can be said about war. Sometimes it might be a necessity, but generally it's only for defensive purposes. Anyway, so it used to be that war is formally declared, right? So they're like, hey, we're starting a war with you. And wars also formally ended. But like it would end in surrender. Yeah. That doesn't happen anymore. Even the start of a war is not acknowledged as such. It might be like a special military operation or some bullshit. Or it's like completely glossed over that this is in fact a war and is just misrepresented. And then it doesn't end formally either, because nobody wants to admit that they've lost the war. So they will spin some bullshit about, no, actually, what our objective that we sought out to accomplish has been accomplished, and blah, 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 whatever. It's all bullshit. Like, everything is bullshit. So I don't really see any way this is going to get better anytime soon, unfortunately. But I guess what I would like to encourage people is to be more authentic, even if it may not get you as many views, even if it may be uncomfortable because it means putting your true self out there rather than hiding behind a mask, that kind of thing, right? But we need this. We need more realness, for lack of a better word. Well, authenticity is a better word, I guess. I would rather listen to or watch or something that has, little production value or whatever, but is real, as opposed to some polished corporate turd, That's how I've been. Obviously, it's not just me. A lot of people feel like this. I bet a lot of you folks will say the same in the comments. If not, if you think I'm just being, I don't know, I'm getting old, I'm out of touch or whatever, and I rage too much against AI, and I'm a Luddite or whatever, you can say whatever the hell you want, as long as it's a real opinion. But of course, I wouldn't know, because, like, how many comments will be AI, will be bots? That's exactly the problem, right? So, yeah, lately I've been, oh no, I ran right into that one. So lately I've been kind of immersing myself in nostalgia stuff like this, retro gaming on the actual original hardware on a CRT, and this is why I decided to do it this way. I might be overdoing it, but that's just what I feel is lacking. I will freely admit I'm a little bit extreme on this topic, because I won't even hire anyone to edit my videos, even though it would be helpful, obviously. And also, I don't have the budget right now. Speaking of which, Patreon, if you're able to join, you can get some extra content and stuff and really help me out, which I much appreciate. But yeah, even if I had the budget, I wouldn't want that. I've talked to editors before. People have reached out and asked, "Hey, do you want someone to edit the videos? I can do it professionally, etc., etc." And I just look at that and I'm like, no, actually, I'm just gonna change it. I'm just gonna do it differently. You know, the camera setup in its flaws, because I'm not a professional videographer by any means. But you know, all those flaws and quirks and everything, from start to finish, I want the video to be mine, down to, you know, the title and the description, everything. Right? That's just what I insist on. Maybe it's a little bit pretentious almost, I don't know, but it just feels right. You know, there's plenty of temptations to do it the sketchy way. Anyway, now I'm just rambling too much. I just wanted to get this off my chest, basically. You see that? And you, they used to do that. And they used to thank you for playing. And you know, the same way, I want to thank you for watching this. Yeah, to be continued. I'll definitely make more videos. Anyway, so yeah, this video is probably going to get less than 10k views or whatever, which is still a lot, you know, but for a 1.5 million channel, of course, not so good, but whatever. Part of that probably has to do with the fact that I refuse to use clickbait and do everything myself, and, you know, with flaws and all. But anyway, thanks for making it this far. Just had to rant about this. I feel strongly about it, and there it is. Let me know what you think.